Hello and welcome to another episode of Better Together. Sorry, we've changed the name. A conversation about the live event industry and getting back to live. Today, I am joined by Tony and Naomi. Say hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hi, Dave.
It is lovely to see you both again. I do have a bit of a confession. We had a little technical hitch last time and we have run this conversation before, but we are doing a repeat. So I hope we can still inject plenty of life into it. Let's jump straight in. Naomi, to you first. How did you get your start in the live event industry and why did you stay?
Well, it was my mother who many years ago was in a quartet. She plays the harp. And she did a dinner for Imagination on the launch of the Sierra, which kind of dates me a little bit. And I just started at drama school at Guildhall, and she asked Gary Withers, who owns Imagination, if he had any work experience going. And he said, "Oh, send her along. So speak to my PA." So I rang the PA, and it took us ages to find the right time to meet up. He was a very busy guy, and the only time we could do was 6 o'clock on a Sunday morning. Should have seen that one coming. After I'd done a Get Out in the West End, so I went along in my grubby dungarees and had an interview and
Amazing.
Got some work over the summer, then did work experience, and then joined after I left drama school. So I joined as a stage manager. So that was my kind of baptism of fire.
Fantastic. And why did you stay?
The reason for staying was, at the time, early 80s, it was really exciting time to be in the industry. There was a huge amount of theatrical, amazing stuff that was going on. But I guess creatively, it's just become very, very different, and you can't rely on spending huge amounts of money. It's like how having to be clever and creative is great. But I think mostly it's because of the people. I think it's the people that you collaborate with. When you have a connection with a client, it's fantastic. It's really just the people that's made me stay.
Amazing. And how about you, Tony? How did you get your start in the live event industry and what made you stay?
Well, so I was at the time working in BBC Drama, doing some things like Howard's Way, if anybody remembers that old warhorse. And I had a girlfriend at the time who was working in this industry, and she kept on saying, "Oh, Tony, can you just fix this script?" And one day I just said, "How much do people get paid for doing this?" And it was about 5 times the amount the BBC was paying me. So I actually thought, "Oh, great, I know what I can do. I can do this stuff and then do my own stuff." And decades later, I'm doing this stuff. And why do I stay? Dave, because of you, because of Naomi, because of the people that you get to meet, the lovely people, talented people. That's what matters, I think, in the end. That's what gives us all something that we cherish in life.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing. And as you look back across your career, Tony, what was your favourite job and why?
So many. I tell you that perhaps the standout job was working with the wonderful David Zolka on the opening ceremonies to the 2014 Commonwealth Games in Glasgow. And David had gathered together all sorts of different people. And he put us in this room, which he titled the Playroom. And it was a place where nobody could make a fool of themselves. And if they did, it was just great. And we just played. And we were very different people. There was a wonderful musician, a wonderful technical guy, wonderful performer. There was David himself, all sorts of people. And it was one of those situations where what came out of that room could never have come out of a single head. It came out of wonderful people playing with each other, building on each other's ideas or absurdities, and it was delight. It was just an absolute delight.
Amazing. And how about you, Naomi? What was your favourite job and why?
Well, like Tony, I've had several. I've been blessed. So the one I think that stands out the most is one that I did for Sony when I was working at Shelton Fleming, and it was the launch of DV Cam, and it was
Amazing.
a very collaborative, I know, a very dates me again, but a very collaborative process with the client. The client was creatively demanding. We had a really great team that came up with some really fun ideas, and they were technically challenging, and that team worked really hard to deliver everything as well. So it was just a really great to see it all then come to life and so on. But I think the highlight of it was that it was, once the show was up and running, it was run for an hour once every 3 days, and it ran for 2 weeks. So it's one of those rare occasions when you actually got some time off, and it's like, oh, we're not a show.
Yummy Naomi Venable, as usual.
But no, I want to focus on the that hasn't happened again ever. Just FYI, but it was such a great project, but that was a bonus.
Amazing. And in what ways has your life been different over the past year? Obviously, everyone's learning to work in new ways. How has it been for you looking after kind of story and narrative? Naomi, to you, how's your life been different?
It's been massively different. I think, like Tony said, when you get the opportunity to sit in a room and play, the most amazing ideas can come through. And I think everybody's time poor, so they want idea now, and so you just go with whatever, grab anyone you can, and doing it virtually. The creative brainstorming process I find really challenging virtually, and so I think for me that the hardest thing has been really getting to that sort of depth of collaboration with people and having time and space to really think something through. And it's a
really funny thing, isn't it? Trying to make the conversation. I think we're finding it right now, just kind of perfect example of it. There's just that time lag between different people's internet connections. And so trying to have that kind of spontaneous conversation and kind of that shifting, energetic thing, it just kind of gets killed off, doesn't it? So,
but also, Tony, I saw an image. Have a look at this. This will evoke some sort of thought, and takes you like 5 seconds to share your screen, by which time people have moved on. It's like...
it's I've only just thought of this, but one of the things I think is amazing when people are on fire is everybody tries to speak at the same time. And, a voice eventually emerges, and it's a friendly, competitive space. You can't do that in this place. If everybody spoke at the same time, it would just be a cacophony. It would just be a sort of blitz of gah. But in real life, when you're together, that is one of the buzzes of trying to pull that idea out and then add to that, and I think that's really something I miss.
Definitely. Have you had to sort of change your methods? Are there things that you do differently, Tony, now when you're trying to engage and encourage people through developing their stories and their narratives for their communication?
Well, I think it's something, and Noam's really good on this. I think the environment we're in, really requires story to be there even more than it was before. But as she just said, the room for actually developing that, the space you've got to actually make that happen and make sure that the client understands they're telling a story, and that matters more than ever if they're going to land with an audience. That's sort of gone, and we're I think the creative aspect of a project is even less budgeted in this space than it is in real life. And that's a huge shame. However, the lesson I think people everywhere are learning, clients as well, most clients, is, actually, story is what binds us. A binding story is what connects us, something that we all believe makes us say, this is why we come together to work on what we do. That matters so much.
Naomi, sort of, are there any practical tips or things that you've kind of learned, I suppose, over the last year working in these new ways that you could share with people as they try to search for new ways to communicate effectively?
Yeah, I think for me, what I've always done is sort of looked at the relationship that you have with like a newspaper, for example, where you see a big bold headline that draws you into the story, and then you see the next bit in bold underneath that kind of is the context that kind of just explains that a little bit more, and you think, oh yeah, I'm in, and then the rest of the story is the detail, and you can start to unearth various and unpack that in various ways and so on. And I think that's been fabulous in the live world, and you can unpack that in various ways, and you've got captive audience, everything's great. I think now you're just looking at headline, and if you're lucky, you get a bit of context as well. But the detail is like, which is how it should be in a way. There's other ways to absorb all that detail, pre and post event communication, whatever. But it's really about bang home that headline, draw them in, so that the audience are there, but you're not in control of their environment. So you just need to keep. Why should I listen? Why should I listen? Why should I listen all the way through? So it's like keep drawing them in, draw them in, draw them in.
I don't know if
so
you
really
guys
taking their attention seriously. Sorry, go on, Tony.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just it's a question really, but I think one of the huge things that has happened is the realization from often quite largely egotized human beings that they don't need to talk for 40 minutes. That actually, if they can't tell their story in 10 minutes, they're not doing their job. And, I think that's a huge takeout from this space we're in that will really change the shape of the events we make and build in the coming year and the coming years, I think. Great.
So tell me a little bit more about that. Like, what is it about that you think they're going to take forward from here?
Well, I think they'll realise that, Dave. We were talking about this the last time we tried to record this session. That in a live space, actually, you've got a captive audience. Quite literally, they're locked in a room mostly. If they leave, then they're conspicuous. But as I said, and I'm going to repeat this sort of rather flatulent quotation. In virtual space, no one can hear you leave, and that's why you've got to keep people connected to what you're saying, to how you're saying it, and the time frame for that and the quality that requires has been intensified and concentrated. So I think people will come away. We won't have CEOs and CFOs and COOs speaking for an hour. We just won't have that anymore. And if they do, the audience will stand up and boo. I hope.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think the other thing is that we've always said that you've got to start with the end in mind. But I think it's even more so now. What do you want the audience to do when you shut up? What do you want this to cause? And so it's really about everything driving to that, even more than before, I think.
Well, there's the purpose of what we do. And Dave, it's of what are we doing? We're trying to make the world that individuals belong to, this company, this logo that I belong to. We're trying to make it matter. We're trying to find reasons to make it matter. And of course, you can find false reasons, and that's false, inauthentic storytelling. But we, I think, try and find something that is real, something that really matters to people. If you can't find that, then I don't think the centre of any company that is unable to find that will hold together for very long, actually.
No, absolutely. What would you say is the most important thing you do? Like, what's the most important aspect of the work that you do, would you say?
No.
To you, Tony, sorry.
I think people join organisations that we do events for because they want to be part of something. They want to feel that they're achieving something, that they're part of something bigger. And I think that sense of community is vital to their energy and their reason for working and their reason to go in every day, whether it's virtually or not, that. And I think if we can continue to build those communities and find ways of engaging those communities, I think that's probably one of the biggest things that we do. But also trying to find ways of navigating that, reflecting the personality of the brand, the personality of the presenter, the making sure that all gels and works together is really important, and challenging them to not go that easy route, predictable.
Yeah, for sure. Are there things, Tony, that you think could be better following this thing, takeaways that people have learnt that could make things better?
Well, I think I was alluding to part of that, Dave. But so I think things are going to converge that none of us are quite aware of, and this is just my guess here. I think huge issues in our world have risen to the top. The state of our planet, our environment, the way we look after each other or fail to look after each other. And those things are already bound up in how successful a business is and how successful it is in inspiring its whole people. We all want to matter. And we're very fortunate in our industry that most of the time we're able to matter in a little team because what we do matters, whatever we're doing, we're contributing in a small team to an overall radio. But if you're part of a company, you want to know that your company is valuing and making a difference to the things that matter to you. And equally, that you matter to the people you're trying to be with and look after. And this is rather a long-winded answer, sorry, but I'll finish in a moment. But in this space, I don't know if you've seen it, but I've sometimes seen it. I've seen particularly younger people, on the edge of the windows, the collective windows, a little bit silent, a little bit unable to sort of climb in. They're not quite sure what to do. And that's because the mentoring space that really has to happen in the real world. That's the way we all grow. We learn from those who know more than we do. That's sort of gone, I think. And I so want the accent to be placed firmly back on that when we all come back together. For me, that's how I've learned. I've learned from fantastic, generous people who are really good at what they do. And I hope I go on doing that.
Fantastic.
Sorry,
I think people are so hungry for that. No, that's brilliant. I think people are going to be so hungry for that collaboration, for that sense of togetherness, for that sense of making everybody better by bringing them together. Right, last two questions. What does hybrid mean to you? Everybody's going on about, last year it was all about pivoting to virtual. This year it's all about hybrid. For some people call it unified. I've heard some people talking about fusion events, like multi-site, like Tony, to you first. What does hybrid mean to you? Does it mean anything?
Oh gosh, man. So I think, as you know, I don't like the word hybrid. It assumes that we run on two engines. And actually, I just don't think that's true. We're either running on one engine or the other. We're either in virtual space or in real space. And sometimes we connect with a screen if we're in real space. But I think this virtual space will be much more present and will be used in a great many more ways. I hope it's not used for the wrong reasons. And I think a lot of those reasons will be it's much cheaper. And it comes also to something that I know we're all so big on, this notion that a shared experience, an experience that unites us, a moment in time when we're all together in this place, doing this thing, is in itself a story experience. And it's a story experience that unites us. If we start to lose that, gosh, we lose so much, I think.
Absolutely. How about you, Naomi? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, it's the same thing. I think everyone's getting excited because it's a stepping stone to going back to full on live events. So of course we're all excited about that because that's why we do what we do. Well, that's why I do Onward. Yeah, I agree with Tony wholeheartedly. If you go back to that sense of community and that sense of belonging and mattering, if you're saying you matter because you're here, but everyone else can matter back at home watching, what's that saying about your community? And you've got to be very, very careful how you play that one, I think, from a content point of view, messaging.
Yeah. It's a really great point. Like, it kind of, how do you create that equality of experience, I guess, across the community that you're trying to develop? And finally, in conclusion, what was the best piece of work advice you were ever given? Or is there something that you live by, or a message that you have to share? To you, Naomi, first.
For me, it's no experience is wasted. I say it to my kids all the time. It's all about lifelong learning. But you never know who you're going to meet. You never know where that experience will come in handy. So for me, no experience is wasted is an important one.
Brilliant. How about you, Tony?
Well, I mean, I think it's exactly on those lines. Keep your L plates on. I mean, I think if you stop wearing L plates, you stop living. Actually, you stop seeing, you stop looking, you stop feeling, thinking. So keep your L plate.
Brilliant. I love that. That's a really nice way to finish. Thank you so much for doing this. We'd love to hear from different people across the industry, so please do get in touch. We've got a number of people booked in over the next few weeks, but we're getting booking into May now, so it would be great to hear from you if you'd like to join this conversation. But thank you very much to Tony and to Naomi for now. Goodbye, Tony. Goodbye, Naomi.
Bye.
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 Brilliant.